What is more important, being a tattooer or being an artist? I really think it's more of a balance than anything else, but we ask ourselves this question no matter how long we've been doing this, professionally or not. And we see artists on one hand who tell the world from a first person point of view of how they see the world and clients and stories. And on the other hand, through a tattooer's eyes, we tell a story from someone else from a secondhand point of view, and we use our best abilities to try to express those things. But there's a disconnect of how we meet in the middle. I like to look at it myself as a seesaw, right? When I first started as an apprentice, I didn't know how to express anything because I had no baseline. So I had no room to move on that seesaw. Now as I'm older, I go and I hit a wall on the left side where tattooing sits, and I ask myself, why can't I keep going further? So I move to the right and I start looking at the artistic side and say, how can I move that wall further back? As I go ahead and push the weight that way, I get better at something artistically, and then I have to bring that over and find out the techniques tattoo-wise, and then push that wall back and create a scale where I can go ahead and, improve. But technique is only a portion of it, right? When we are showing someone else's story via our perception in tattooing, or even just in art itself, we're storytellers. For people who love color, how do you tell how something is by not knowing how vivid or big to make the composition? If you work in black and gray, such as charcoal or ink, light and luma is your absolute storyteller. So how dynamic is that? When we don't take the time to actually know what kind of story we're telling, I think it makes for a poor execution of art, and that really hurts how we see ourselves when it should be expressive, right? So in my head, there really is no better way to be. I know a lot of tattoo artists that can't draw, and I know a lot of artists that can't tattoo. It's just a more difficult medium for a lot of people. And when we look at our influences, like what do we come from? What do we do to improve those things? I think it boils down to what do you do with your spare time? I've been very fortunate, from video games to animation to comic books. Everything I've been able to take in and use it as a study tool. I look at art and painting as I have it as a discipline, but I'm not afraid to mess things up. I set up my tattoo side and I set up my paint side the same thing, routine, to create something that I have to keep in mind every single time. And in my sketchbooks, in my actual artwork, I can be as messy as I want. I'm there to be insecure. I'm there to be lost and figure things out and try new things that I couldn't on skin. When I paint and I tattoo, I use a lot of ink, like dynamic ink, which is the same I tattoo with. All my insecurities are supposed to come out in my art, in my sketchbooks. And that's where I'm learning other people's voices, their dialects, and how that is going to help me tell a story better. And on skin, I use every bit of that knowledge to make a calculated choice and create something better. And as my very awesome friend Tony said, what do you know on paper that I don't know on skin?